our last topic of the night, guys, we're going to just talk about the past two episodes of True Detective. We're not going to go into a mega deep dive or anything like that. I could spend about 3 hours talking about True Detective.
Just on the first 2 episodes.
Just on that second episode, I tell you.
Yeah.
Right, guys. So it's total spoilers from here on out. If you haven't seen them episodes, you don't care. It's time to back out now. We're not going to spend long on it. Just overall impressions. Paul, what is your history with True Detective?
So I've seen season 1 only once. I went back to try and rewatch it before this come out. I wanted to rewatch 1, 2, and rewatch 1 and watch 2 and 3 because them 2 I had not seen. Yeah. And I only got to like episode 2. I just didn't have the time to get through it all. But at the time, season 1 blew me away. That was sort of like up there with sort of like Breaking Bad and them sort of shows where it's literally like I am a fan and I will continue to be a fan of this show. It's not one of them. You watched it, you've passed a few hours and you don't talk about it ever again. It was gritty. I love detective and crime dramas and stuff like that. So it was right up my street. McConaughey and help me out.
Woody
Harrelson firing on all cylinders and that. Each episode felt like a mini movie. The whole, it was fantastic. I loved the first season. 2 and 3 I missed because the internet got in my ear too much.
Yeah.
But it was like, this is nowhere near as good as season 1. And so it just passed me by and more time passed and I just never got round to going back to watch them, even though people said season 3 was a bit better than 2. But this one, Jodie Foster, who I love, I love a handful of films, but just from Silence of the Lambs, like I'm a fan for her, just from that movie. The premise of it, the sort of in Antarctic and the sheriffs, very reminiscent of things like The Thing, which it references in the series. So I thought it would going into. I thought they are going to reference that. It's obviously borrowing elements from that. Stuff like 30 Days and Nights, sort of borrowed a few things from that. It just looked sick. It's the word I say. I couldn't wait for it to come out, and HBO always put bangers out. So, yeah. So I've seen season 1, not seen season 2 and 3. You don't need to, obviously, for it. You'll talk more about the connections and that, but I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it.
Good.
One of them shows. You don't touch your phone. Do that. You're locked in for an hour.
Yeah. Mate, I am that Charlie Day meme. Like I'm like I've got all the drawings out. I'm Matthew McConaughey in that first season where he's got his bunker and he's got all the 30 years of detective work on the wall. Mate, I am loving this show so far. Right, so I know it's only 2 episodes, but as far as my history goes with True Detective, I was there in 2014 as it was airing week to week with Georgia. We watched it every week. I loved it. It sort of just like bled into my bloodstream a little bit. And so the second season is tragic. I think because he was on a really tight time frame, Nick Pizzolatto, who wrote the entire True Detective first season by himself, no writer's room or anything like that. It was all from the one brain, and a lot with collaboration with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson. You go in that second season, and it was a quick turnaround, and it ended up being a writer's room and stuff like that. And, it wasn't really Nick Pizzolatto's fault for how that season turned out, but it didn't have any of the inherent, like, what the first season was about. It was a totally different story and stuff like that. And this is an anthology series, but we're going to get into why I don't think it is an anthology series, actually. I think it was advertised at that, but now we're going into something else here. Season 3 comes out. Awesome. Not as good as the first season, obviously, but Mahershala Ali and Stephen Dorff, our Deacon Frost, absolutely awesome dynamic in it. Like, for me, a big factor of what True Detective is about the partnership between the detectives. And Stephen Dorff and Mahershala Ali just absolutely nailed it. It's 100% the best part of season 3. A lot like the relationship of Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey in season 1 was. So season 3's over, and they do sort of touch on elements of the events of the first season, but very, very, very briefly, and it's forgotten about. That was 2019. We're now in 2024. This True Detective Night Country has been getting advertised for like the last year almost, and been very excited about it. But then I watched the first trailer, and the spiral from the first season is very much in your face in that trailer. And you know, for the last year, I've just been thinking this is going to be a bait and switch. I know it. I know it is. They're building this up. They're going back to Alaska, which is where Matthew McConaughey's Rustin Cole is actually from. They talk about it quite a lot in season 1. They talk about his father, Travis, in season 1, that he had leukemia. Like, so all these bits that are popping up in episode 1, I'm like,
oh shit.
Oh my God, they're doing it. So basically, like, it's a bit like, you know, when we were talking about The Killer, David Fincher's The Killer, and I had all these expectations in my head, like 2 years prior, and it didn't meet my expectations, which isn't the film's fault. It's my fault for building them up. I can't help but doing that with every franchise I love. So True Detective's coming again. I see the spiral. Mate, my brain's going overtime. I'm like, here we go. I think they're setting something up here where we could have a potential return from Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson.
Oh, yeah.
Because they didn't die at the end of the first season that we all forget. So the past week, I've been like trying to find like interviews with Nick Pizzolatto and stuff like that. And recently on Nick Pizzolatto's Instagram, about a month ago, there's a picture of him, Matthew McConaughey, and Woody Harrelson saying they've just finished a read of True Detective, The Return. I was like, no fucking way. And now we're in this new season, and episode 2 is like, basically, imagine being a fan of Batman, but you've never seen Batman's Batcave. So imagine being a fan of Rustin Cole from the first season of True Detective, but now you're seeing where he comes from, his home, his dad, shit like that. Do you know what I mean? That you hear about in season 1. And not only that, in episode 2, there's a mention of the Tuddle organization who owns this lab facility, the Tulsa lab facility. It's obviously like the main crux of this new season. They own that. They were the main big bads in season 1. This is building up to something, man. I don't think it's necessarily going to build up in this season, but I think at the end of the season, the door is going to be open for a return. Absolutely. But as far as these 2 episodes go, Jodie Foster, you know, she's the detective. You know, like you were saying, Silence of the Lambs, this is like the sort of perfect sort of like legacy role for sort of Jodie Foster to come back to this sort of detective. And she plays it really well. She's an absolute arsehole in the show, but you can tell she's a really good detective, you know?
Yeah.
Then you've got Callie Reese, who's like this 5-time world heavyweight champion.
Yeah. I only found that out the other day.
What do you think about this girl? Because I think she's nailing it. Like, just as far as the first 2 episodes go, I think she's pretty good. Like,
yeah, mate. I've got nothing negative to say about any of this.
Yeah,
I think they're great together. I'm loving the backstory that she's got.
Yeah.
Awesome. I can't wait to see more. I've got literally nothing, not one thing negative to say about these 2 episodes.
No, absolutely not. Like, we're not going to get into it deep here. I'm going to set something up once this season's finished, and I don't know whether I'm maybe do it on my own or
I'm definitely gonna have to rewatch season 1 before that then, because you've just schooled me on things I completely forgot about.
The thing is, right? So this is no word of a lie, right? So when I watched that first episode of True Detective the other week, mate, I've watched the first season again.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
Weekend just gone. It's probably my 5th or 6th time watching it since 2014. And like, I finished it. So like, my brain is just like frazzled with all these little details from season 1 that are coming into play in episode 2 of this season. I couldn't believe it. I thought, you know what? The Tuddles are going to get mentioned. McConaughey's dad's going to get mentioned, but it'll probably happen in the last episode. Do you know what I mean? To get everyone talking. No, this fucker is kicked off in the 2nd episode, and it's so in your face, the connections to season 1. If she was to pull a bait and switch by the end of this, I'd be pretty pissed off. But because she's got people talking about that season so much in episode 2, Like the next episode, we're halfway through the season. Do you know what I mean? Episode 3. There's only 6 episodes. So this is looking like it's going to be like a really tight, consistent story that is set in the True Detective universe, and there's a bigger thing at play here. Think of the Tuddles as Thanos. Do you know what I mean? Like they're the main big arching bad that is like got their fingers.
It's like the Mysterons from
basically
the Mysterons from Captain Scarlet.
Yeah, it's like I don't know, man. Like I'm absolutely over the moon with how these two episodes.
I wish I had more knowledge of season 1 than I did, because nothing excites me more is when TV shows do that. When they feed you breadcrumbs from past seasons, it's not in your face. They're just mentioning things, and you're like, "Oh shit, that's shit!"
Yeah.
Like they're the TV shows that people love. That's why people love television when seasons of TV can do that, where you can reference things, and if you're a fan of it, you're in on it. So I'm definitely have to rewatch season 1. I might even try and I'm off next week, so I might even try and after episode 3 go in that week off, binge through season 1 again.
I'd highly recommend it because I think you'll get so much out of this season. Like now that you know what the connections are and stuff like that. Like, mate, if Matthew McConaughey turns up at the end of this season, like I am gonna fucking chuck myself out the nearest fucking window. Like, honest to God, like he's one of my favorite characters. Like of any medium. Rustin Cole is, I don't know, man. Like it goes Batman, it goes Rustin Cole, baby.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he's absolutely quality. But
I have to ask you, as a fan of True Detective, I have to ask you this. And if you think you know the answer and you think that is what it's going to be, maybe not say it, but have you got a theory? Have you got a theory about where this is going at the moment? I will ask you this. Do you know why then people are in the ice? Not do you know, like, do you know the answer? What are your theory? What is your guess of why?
I've got, right, so I have got a theory, yeah, right? And if I tell you the theory, it'll probably leave your head instantly, right? But my theory here, if you have watched season 1 and you're aware of it, and the whole cult situation with Carcosa and stuff like that, they were like all about immortality and living forever. Now this is a research center, and what was said in the first episode that they were searching for the origin of life. Now, if this Tulsa, place is funded, which it's explicitly told, because what happens in the first episode, you've got Peter, the young detective, sitting down with Danvers, Jodie Foster's character, and he's about to tell Jodie Foster who actually funds the Tulsa Research Center. And I think it's the mine as well. The mine's going to play a massive part in this, definitely, because if you've noticed on about the water, the drinking water that's being contaminated and stuff like that, I think that's all going to have a big part to play. But yeah, I think it's got something to do with what these scientists were actually looking for. I think there's going to be a connection there.
Do you think what they discover is fictional, or do you think it's a bit like The Last of Us, where it's a something that could happen, but it's fiction still? Do you think it's going to be like that?
I think they're going to lead you on the entire show thinking it is more supernatural than it ends up actually being. I think the fact that they're in Alaska and the environment is so harsh and does a lot of weird shit, like in the second episode, one of the guys who went to the research center, who ends up seeing someone, ends up saying like, "Oh yeah, this is like we see people all the time. We see people from the dead all the time. Like it's a common thing." But I think by the end of the show, there'll be an actual tangible explanation for what's going on. I did not see the guy start screaming when they were getting forward in the
oh my God.
Screaming, like, what the fuck?
But I've got the back speakers behind me, like the ones like right there by the couch where I sit, and it went off, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah. Now, I think another reason why people are really digging the show as well is because it has went back to its horror elements a little bit. Like season 2 completely drops that. It's like this LA noir crime story. Just totally falls off a cliff. But then the horror sort of comes back a little bit in season 3, not overly as much as the first one, but we're trying to decipher whether this is supernatural or real. We are back in Horrorland, baby. Do you know what I mean? And that it's one of my favorite genres, you know, like Seven and stuff like that, detectives, and when it meets horror, like I love that shit. I love it. But you know, I was apprehensive about this show to begin with, and when that second episode came out and it just started answering all the questions that I'd been asking on that day to my partner Georgia, because I just finished the first season again. I was like, I've got all this shit going through my head. I wonder if they'll do this. I wonder if they'll connect that. I wonder if that guy who's dead in the first one, showing that woman where the dead bodies are, I wonder if that is the same Travis, his dad. But then when they start saying, oh, he died of leukemia and stuff like that, he went out in the ice before he died of leukemia. Like, I just can't wait, mate. I can't wait. And bear in mind, in that first season of True Detective, there's an 8-year period where Matthew McConaughey's character does go back to Alaska. So we're saying from 2002 to 2012, in that time period, he does go back. So I'm wondering if there's any connections there.
I do think you're onto something.
I don't know, but all I can say is when you've got some free time, just go for it, man. Go for it. Do it in 2 sittings. Do a 4-hour sitting of it, mate, and another 4 hours. Go to the bit where it's that one shot, that 1 6-minute take of Matthew McConaughey with Ginger. That fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
I think, you know, Kerry Fukunaga, like, who directed that entire first season as well. Like,
I forget it's he who did it as well.
Yeah. Like, there was a lot of tension between Nick Pizzolatto and Kerry Fukunaga on that first season, but I honestly, for tension is what made that season pretty good. A lot of button of heads. Nick Pizzolatto was totally against the 6-minute one-shot take with Matthew McConaughey, and Kerry Fukunaga.
It's one of the most memorable bit, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like, this is absolutely happening, 100%. I think they did it in like 4 takes or whatever, but it's. Mate, that first season to me, like, it's my all-time favorite show. That first season, I've watched it about 5 or 6 times now. I'll probably end up watching it another 5 or 6 times. And it's just like the fact that we're in this conspiracy from season 1 again. I'm so excited. I'm so excited where it's going.
It makes sense to go back to the well as well, considering 2 and 3 wasn't well received, even though, like you said, they've advertised it as an anthology series, but to bring it full circle again, that's going to get them season 1 fans like yourself, and you can just you talking, I can tell you absolute hyped, and it's going to get them season 1 fans back, you know.
100%, 100%. I think, and you know, like, just looking at YouTube and stuff like that and all the thumbnails, you can tell people are hyped, and it is because of the connections from the first season. Because I think people are like me, oh, it's going to be a bait and switch. That I still think the spiral, because that spiral in the first film is the you know, the sign of this like conspiracy like group that are kidnapping all the women and children. I thought the spiral was going to end up being some like indigenous sign that predates.
Yeah, I did. Yeah,
and it still might be. It still might be, but there's a reason why this group is using that symbol from the first season and why it's all over the place in this night country. But yeah, Paul, can't wait to talk. We'll get into it. We'll probably do another stream. There'll be another couple of episodes. We'll give our thoughts, but you know, like, once this season's ended, like, I'll want to do a proper deep dive into all this stuff and break it all down. But yeah, man, I think that'll do.